The year I divorced John, I left with unwavering resolve. Everyone in our circle laughed at me. A vain little canary putting on airs of integrity. Who does she think she is? 2 years later, I ran into John again at a small-town diner. He pulled up in a sports car, his aristocratic demeanor impossible to disguise. And I, wearing cheap dishwashing gloves, looked utterly haggard. Because I broke a bowl, I kept bowing and scraping in apology. This time when John begged me to remarry him, I agreed. The circle started mocking me again. Now she's finally tamed, see if she still dares to control you every day. John fidgeted with his wedding ring, his movements restless. Let her control me. She can check on me however she wants. After a pause, John seemed lost in thought. As long as she doesn't make a scene with me, I can cut off all those little songbirds. John didn't know I truly wouldn't interfere anymore. Back in my youth, I firmly believed sincerity mattered most. It wasn't until I battered myself bloody that I finally saw the light. Sincerity is the cheapest thing in this world. John provides me with material comforts, and in exchange, I should grant him his freedom. John came to see me 3 times. Each time he came, it was to beg me to remarry him. Our divorce back then was an ugly mess. I slammed the photos of his infidelity right in his face, tore up our wedding photos, threw away the rings, dragged my suitcase out the door without looking back. Even when his parents and friends took turns trying to persuade me, I refused to forgive him. So when John suddenly came to the small town begging for reconciliation, everyone was shocked. They saw my departure as playing hard to get. My refusal was seen as playing hard to get, as feigning moral superiority. They all laughed at me, a poor student from a backward small town. Having climbed onto the Pei family's lofty branch, I should have been content as a docile canary in a gilded cage. Yeah, I insisted on putting on airs as the lady of the house, even daring to meddle in John's philandering ways. The first time it happened, I threw all the gifts John had brought right out the front door. Hermes, Louis Vuitton, all sorts of expensive luxury items lay scattered across the ground. The crystal necklace John had bought at auction for a small fortune was knocked to the floor by me. I slapped him hard across the face. It's over between us. Don't bother me anymore. That time, John stood outside my apartment building all night long. Only when the heavy rain started pouring did he leave in utter disarray. The second time was a year later. My mother became paralyzed from the waist down, and the family savings were quickly depleted. Unable to afford a caregiver, I had no choice but to care for her at home. My frequent absences from work led to me being fired from the company. I could only find odd jobs in the neighborhood to make ends meet, plus some online side gigs, barely making ends meet. When John reappeared, he tossed me a bank card. I can provide your mother with the best medical resources, as long as you remarry me. That day, my mother struggled to sit up and began shouting curses. She hurled a cup with all her might, ordering John to leave. In my mother's eyes, I saw guilt. Even after becoming paralyzed, she never stayed idle, working hard with capable hands to earn money by making handicrafts. She refused to become the leverage John could use against me. This rejection made John fly into a humiliated rage. He issued a vicious threat. Eva, you'll regret this day, I tell you. Poverty is your greatest disease. John was right. Not long after, my father got into a car accident due to fatigue driving. Like my mother, he became paralyzed from the waist down. Our already struggling life completely collapsed. I started working desperately to earn money. Working 4 jobs a day, I stingily allotted myself only 6 hours of sleep. Yet it still wasn't enough. The crushing weight of exorbitant medical bills and the town's inadequate healthcare resources left me gasping for air. So when John came to me for the 3rd time proposing reconciliation, I agreed. John's initial haughty demeanor gradually transformed into wild elation. He suppressed the corner of his mouth, pretending not to care. You've finally come to your senses. Pack your things tonight and go back to remarry tomorrow. I nodded lightly. John glanced at me, then quickly averted his gaze. I've already cut ties with Lily. She won't appear in front of you again. I thought for a long time before remembering who it was. His childhood sweetheart, the very spark that led to our divorce. Can't blame me for not recalling. John was always a flirtatious playboy. Even after marrying me, he secretly kept countless beauties by his side. Lily was actually just one inconspicuous figure among them. But she was the only one who made a scene in front of me, foolishly clamoring for recognition. It was also the first time I learned about John's affairs behind my back. Don't worry, I've long forgotten about it. John nodded, as if letting out a long sigh of relief. He looked at me, hesitated for a moment, then spoke somewhat awkwardly. Let's not bring up the past anymore. From now on, we'll just live well together. Eva, I swear, I'll be completely devoted to you from now on. The roadside speakers blared raucous music. It conveniently drowned out John's words. I only caught faint fragments, something about never mention it again, and I swear. But it didn't matter. What John swore wasn't important. I softly replied, all right. What happened in the past really shouldn't be brought up anymore. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world, and one shouldn't be insatiably greedy. I just didn't understand before, but now I do. Since John has provided me with material comforts, then I ought to be sensible and give him his freedom. It's truly unreasonable for his mistress to make a scene with him. John and I made our divorce a very public spectacle. The remarriage ceremony was just as grand and spectacular. 5 years later, I wore a wedding dress for the 2nd time. The reflection in the mirror seemed unchanged from 5 years ago. Yet upon closer inspection, those subtle differences became strikingly apparent. Her skin was slightly tanned, with somewhat rough palms. There was an unsightly scar on her calf from an electric bike accident. The most striking difference was in those utterly expressionless eyes. When I first started dating John, many people advised me to walk away. After all, one was the high and mighty heir of the Pei family, while the other was just a scholarship student from a poor, remote town. But back then, I was full of arrogance and narrow-mindedness, failing to grasp the sheer magnitude of that so-called gap. I was diligent, intelligent, and persistent, the first science prodigy ever admitted from my small town. Apart from family background, I was no less than John. So when John confessed his feelings to me, I said yes. Such a relationship soon caused quite a stir in our social circle. Some mocked John as a shallow romantic fool. Some people mocked me for being vain and materialistic, saying I went to university just to marry into wealth. When these words reached my ears, I paid them no mind. I simply retorted earnestly, we fell in love because of love, and only because of love. To prove to everyone, including John, I never accepted any of the expensive gifts John gave me, nor did I take advantage of the various conveniences he offered. We always split the bill when dining out, even if a single meal at those high-end restaurants would cost me half a month's part-time salary. This widely disapproved relationship lasted 4 years. The gossip about me only gradually faded after we got married following graduation. Friends who initially opposed us now offer their blessings. They said with envy in their voices, true romantics are only born into wealthy families. Eva, you're so lucky. At that time, I truly believed I was the happiest person in the world. I really thought I had married for love and found true sincerity. Until those brazen, explicit photos were thrown in front of me. The wedding ceremony was halfway through when someone approached me with a wine glass. Lily was wearing a custom-made gown with exquisite makeup. Her pure and innocent demeanor made it impossible to imagine she was the star of those risque photos. My divorce from John over her caused quite a stir in our social circle. It's just some casual fun between acquaintances, why make such a big deal out of it? It was just drunkenly satisfying needs, nothing to do with love or romance. Such provincial puritanism. If you had any worldly experience, you know things are much more open abroad. Back then I was young and didn't realize love and desire could exist separately. John indulged in all kinds of pleasures behind the scenes, living a promiscuous life. Lily was equally uninhibited, having slept with all their mutual friends. Neither of them saw anything wrong with it. It was as ordinary as eating a meal. The wealthy looked down from their high perch, treating the social butterflies who threw themselves at them as mere objects to be used. So John couldn't understand. He'd already given me money and status. Why should I be angry over a bunch of objects? Lily's gift was an entire gold bar, nearly 1 kilogram in weight. John's brows furrowed as he scolded Lily. Who asked you to come? He quickly turned to explain to me. I didn't invite her, we're really over. But Lily didn't seem to care. We grew up together, after all. Can't friends attend a wedding? She even mocked John. Don't tell me you think I'm still hung up on you. Don't flatter yourself. She handed over the gift with a touch of arrogance. Happy wedding. I came in a hurry and only managed to prepare this. I've embarrassed myself many times by not recognizing luxury brands. Lily once gave me a Chanel bag, but I didn't recognize it. I reciprocated with a hand-knitted scarf. I was laughed at for a long time, accused of playing small stakes for big gains with a scheming mind. After that, I stopped accepting any gifts from these people altogether. They praised me openly for being independent and clear-headed, while secretly calling me a pretentious prude. The gifts turned into gold bars, deliberately letting me know how expensive they were. Everyone around was looking at me mockingly, knowing I would refuse with lofty pride. This kind of game never failed to amuse them, always provoking bursts of laughter. But this time, I simply smiled and accepted. Well, thank you then. The surroundings fell silent instantly, and Lily abruptly raised her head to look at me. I pretended not to notice the surprise and anger in her eyes. Turning around, I smiled at John's group of brothers. I've accepted the gifts you gave, and thank you for attending the wedding. 8 people, 8 gold bars compared to expensive luxury items. These gold bars hold their value better and are easier to liquidate. I just didn't understand before. My pride was too strong. Stubborn by nature, I was always afraid of doing something wrong that would make them think I was vain. But in truth, whether I accepted them or not, they'd still look down on me all the same. Prejudice runs deep. Everything I do is wrong. John was true to his word. Soon, my parents were transferred to the top hospital in the country. The cramped, stuffy 6-person ward was replaced with a spacious, pristine private room. Dedicated nurses and caregivers attended to them around the clock. John also hired top-tier specialists to develop a comprehensive rehabilitation plan. Under such meticulous care, my mother even gradually managed to stand up slowly. I thanked John sincerely from the bottom of my heart. He was right. There's essentially only one disease in this world, the disease of poverty. John pulled me into his embrace, and I instinctively resisted before forcing myself to relax. Eva, trust me. From now on, let's live well together. Don't be angry with me anymore. After remarrying, John seemed like a completely different person. He stopped going to all those shady bars for parties. He no longer came home late at night, returning before 9 p.m. every day. He began learning to be a considerate and qualified husband, striving to give me a sense of security. His personal assistant was replaced with a male one, and he maintained distance from all women around him. In the past, he'd leisurely reply to just one message after I'd sent him 10. Now whenever he goes out, he proactively and eagerly reports his itinerary. As for me, I no longer nitpick over every little thing like before. I've become gentle, generous, and understanding, never prying too much into his affairs. A week before my birthday, John asked me what gift I wanted. The old me would have said, gifts don't matter, as long as you spend a week with me. John was in the prime of his career, too busy every day, and he used to criticize such requests from me as being willful. But now, I looked at the brochure the salesperson handed me. This apartment is quite nice by the sea, with great views and fresh air. John made the payment, watched me sign the contract, and couldn't help asking, is that all? Didn't you always want to go to France? I interrupted him, you're busy with work, no need to take time off for me. John let out an "oh," as if he wanted to say something more, but ultimately remained silent. His assistant actually adjusted his work schedule for him. John worked tirelessly for a month and finally managed to carve out a week's time. But when I say I don't need it now, it's a different kind of understanding compared to before. I lowered my head and carefully reviewed the house purchase contract. Thus I missed John's somewhat wistful expression. That evening, passing by the study, I overheard John on the phone, his tone somewhat distracted. If it's not enough, invest another 10 million. The female lead must go to Emily. Finding me standing at the door, John panicked instantly. He hastily hung up the phone and floundered for an explanation. You know, Emily once saved me when I nearly drowned. The entertainment industry is tough. When she begged for help, I couldn't refuse. This wasn't the first time John had poured resources into helping Emily. There have been times before when he invested up to 80 million just to secure a leading actress. Emily thrived in the industry thanks to these resources and her scandalous relationship with John. Every time I confronted John, he would brush me off by bringing up how he once saved my life. After several heated arguments, John finally started to rein himself in. She had her role snatched away and had no choice but to come to me. Before John could finish speaking, I had already readily agreed. Okay, I reassured him instead. A life-saving favor deserves boundless gratitude. You did the right thing. John froze instantly, staring at me in disbelief. Truth be told, I had been convinced by his explanations before, until those photographs surfaced. The images were brazen and explicit, each pose more obscene than the last. The female leads include Lily, Emily, and other young, beautiful girls. This time when I returned, I found myself uncontrollably repulsed by John's touch. With all these lovely young things clinging to him, what reason did I have to object? I turned and walked toward the door, John's voice calling after me. I've really broken things off with Emily. This is the last time I'll repay her for saving my life. I won't contact her again. I turned back with a gentle smile. Whatever you decide is fine. But this kind of understanding didn't please John. His expression grew complicated, tinged with something like disappointment. Eva, you seem different. I don't understand where John's sense of loss comes from. Being petty was bad before, but now being magnanimous isn't good either. I think John is truly a hard person to please. I took stock of all the gifts I've received during this period. I took out a portion to donate to impoverished mountain areas. After that, I started frequently attending gatherings with the ladies in our social circle. I used to always look down on these wealthy wives. I thought their marriages were all about interests, devoid of any genuine affection. All she does every day is spend money and indulge in pleasure, turning a blind eye to her husband's infidelity. I prided myself on being different from them, maintaining my own sense of dignity. But in reality, how was my marriage any different from theirs? Those who sought wealth gained material comforts, while those who sought pleasure enjoyed their lives. It seems everyone has their own motives. Only I was the most laughable, seeking nothing but sincerity. In the end, I gained nothing but wounds all over. I didn't return home until very late. I pondered over the news I heard at the gathering. Their social class always had a keener sense for information than ordinary people, sniffing out business opportunities. I've saved up some money now and want to try my hand at starting a business. The one who drove me home was a young university student, handsome and youthful, the younger brother of one of the ladies. During the banquet, he kept stealing glances at me, and afterward, he offered to drive me home. The boy called out to me, blushing, saying I left my bag in the car. I took the bag, smiled, and thanked him. His face turned even redder. When I turned around, I saw John standing at the villa's entrance. He had been watching for who knows how long, the moonlight falling on his tense jawline. John's face darkened as he strode over, wrapping his arm around my waist like he was staking a claim. Even after returning home, his gloomy expression showed no signs of clearing up. I took the initiative to explain. I got carried away chatting with the ladies and lost track of time. I'll come back earlier next time. John seemed lost in thought for a long moment before handing me a gift box. I'm sorry. A friend recently returned from abroad, and I had to welcome him back. It wasn't the kind of gathering I could easily decline. I didn't mean to come home so late. I froze, then suddenly understood. John thought my recent early departures and late returns were me giving him the silent treatment. I shook my head with a faint smile. It's all right. You can stay out as late as you want. No need to explain to me. The gift box contained an expensive set of jewelry. I tried it on. It was beautiful. Turning back with another smile, I said, could you clear out my shopping cart for me? I've bought quite a few clothes recently. John remained silent for a long while. Thinking he didn't believe me, I urged him. Really, I don't mind. Just help me make the payment first. By the way, I've just got my driver's license. When are you taking me to buy a car? John suddenly got angry. It was as if he'd been holding it in for too long, and his emotions came pouring out. You don't care about this, you don't care about that. It doesn't matter if I come home late. It doesn't matter if I invest in movies for other women. Only when you need to buy something do you actively come to me, otherwise not a single extra word is spoken. Eva, what exactly is my position in your heart now? The echoes of his roar lingered in the living room for a long time. I looked at him for a moment, then lowered my head. If you can't bear to buy it, forget it. I won't bother you again. John's chest heaved violently, his expression dark and ominous, as if he were about to explode the next second. But in the end, he just pursed his lips, like a deflated balloon. It's not that I can't bear to. Tell me what you want. There are plenty of cars in the garage for you to drive, or if you want a new one, that's fine too. Having received a definitive answer, I felt somewhat drowsy and left the living room to watch up and rest. Standing by the railing on the second floor, I happened to glance downward. There I saw John still standing in the same spot. Lost in thought, he remained motionless with his head bowed, like a silent and rigid statue. After that day, John seemed to be sulking with me. He stopped reporting his schedule to me and no longer adhered to the 9 p.m. curfew. The movie he invested in for Emily had already premiered with great fanfare. The rumors between the two grew increasingly intense, yet John remained silent without denying them. Some busybody sent me a video clip. Inside a dim and noisy bar, John was leaning back on the sofa with half-closed eyes, and right beside him, the voluptuous and stunningly beautiful woman was coquettishly feeding him wine with a flirtatious laugh. The video captured the teasing voices of John's buddies. Hey John, what brings you out to play with us? Not afraid of making your missus angry? I can't stand Eva's pretentious attitude controlling everything, even monitoring who you dine with. Who does she think she is? Exactly. Back then she left so decisively, not taking a single penny. I thought she had such noble principles, but look at her now crawling back to remarry like a whipped dog. John pushed away the glass of wine the woman offered him. He seemed somewhat agitated, checking his phone every few seconds. The person beside him noticed but didn't think much of it. Stop looking. Eva wouldn't dare rush you. She learned her lesson after suffering it's truly annoying being nagged every day. John unconsciously touched his wedding ring. I didn't say anything. Let her nag if she wants, there's no shame in being managed by one's wife. Everyone around froze in surprise, with some so shocked they dropped their glasses. But John remained oblivious, lost in his own thoughts. These past 2 years have been miserable enough for me. If she comes back and stops making a scene, I can just cut ties with all those other women. The video abruptly ended there. The sender's message was cryptic. Not bad, Eva. You're quite the schemer. Playing hard to get really worked on John, didn't it? Now you've got him wrapped around your finger like a trained dog. Must be feeling pretty pleased with yourself. I ignored the message and replied, who are you really? I recognized this number. It belonged to the person who had sent me those photos of John's infidelity 2 years ago. Now they sent me this video again. This person must be someone very familiar with John. It might even be one of those brothers in John's circle. But I don't understand their intention. Are they mocking my husband's infidelity, or warning me not to meddle too much? But my inquiry went unanswered. The other side avoided the question and only sent another message. Eva, your relationship isn't as deep and meaningful as you imagined. After a 2-week standoff, John was the first to back down. He silently transferred several million into my bank account, then transferred several properties under my name. When he returned that evening, he awkwardly handed me a bouquet of roses. I acted as if nothing had happened either, gently helping him take off his coat. I then personally cooked a dinner. The atmosphere was unusually harmonious, and John's tense brow gradually softened. This peaceful atmosphere lasted until 10 in the evening, when it was suddenly shattered by a crisp sound. John's chest heaved as he glared at me darkly. At his feet lay a shattered bottle of red wine, its crimson contents spilled across the floor. He couldn't contain his furious roar. Why won't you let me touch you, Eva? We're married, why can't I be intimate with you? Are you giving me the silent treatment, or is there someone else? John's eyes suddenly reddened as he spoke. His voice choked with emotion as he looked at me stubbornly. Eva, I've always wanted to ask, after being apart for 2 years, do you love me now, or do you love my money? Many people have asked me this question, from when John and I started dating until we got married. When my friend asked me, her tone was advisory. The gap is too wide, relationships are hard work, Eva. You need to think this through carefully. When my mother asked me, her voice was full of concern. Eva, I just want you to be happy. A peaceful, ordinary life would be enough. The inquiries from John's brothers were laced with malice of a completely different nature. Oh, John isn't picky at all, completely smitten by you. Who knows if you're truly an innocent little white flower or a black-hearted lotus? To all their questions, I only answered earnestly. Simply because he is John. So whether he's rich or poor, I will love him. But people change, and no answer can remain eternal. The world is fair, everything requires an exchange. I too once believed my answer would never change, that I could respond with absolute certainty. But I had overestimated myself and miscalculated others. At that moment, I mastered the art of lying without being taught. With curved brows and a gentle tone, I said, why ask such things so seriously? Of course I love you. The gloom in John's eyes dissipated slightly. I don't know what came to his mind, but his brows began to furrow again. Then why won't you let me touch you? I remained silent for a moment before replying in a flat tone. The thought of you sleeping with so many other women out there, it terrifies me. I maintained the dignity we both deserved, leaving the words unspoken. But John understood, his face instantly paling as he rushed to explain. Since the divorce, I haven't been with anyone else, haven't slept with anyone, Eva. I've been filled with regret, there's only ever been you in my heart. John was so anxious that he wished he could tear open his chest to prove his sincerity. But beneath my indifferent expression, John's voice grew quieter. Knowing he was in the wrong, he moved his lips futilely and finally said, I'm very clean, not dirty. Tomorrow I'll go for a full medical checkup and send you the results. After that day, John started acting incredibly strange. He deleted all the female contacts in his phone right in front of me. Then he promptly clarified the rumors about him and Emily. Later, he flaunted his wedding ring publicly to prove his married status. At the same time, he started spending money on me like crazy. Luxury goods, designer bags, jewelry, haute couture dresses, he sent them to me in piles. John became increasingly insecure, asking me neurotically every day whether I loved him or not, over and over. I couldn't understand his behavior, and when pestered too much, I deliberately say I didn't love him. At this, John's eyes would instantly redden, his hands trembling as if he couldn't stand upright. He forced a strained smile. Eva, that's not a funny joke. Stop teasing me on purpose. Without even looking up, I'd say, you don't believe me when I say I love you, and when I say I don't, you think it's a joke. John, what exactly do you want me to say? I got angry, and John immediately raised the white flag in surrender. He obsequiously poured me water, hastily agreeing as if he couldn't wait another second. I believe you, I do, Eva. You must love me, please don't be angry. I had thought the matter would end there. To my surprise, John brought home a lie detector the very next day. I watched coldly as he fiddled with it. John pressed his lips together, head bowed, his expression unreadable to me. He tinkered with it for so long that I grew impatient waiting. I was just about to ask him when exactly he planned to start questioning. John suddenly gave up, turning his head away somewhat awkwardly. This is the company's newly developed game console. My assistant sent it over for me to review. Liar. The one holding the lie detector was the first to tell a falsehood. I didn't expose him, nor did I care why John suddenly changed his mind. I had to pass off the lie detector as a gaming console, because I had more important matters to attend to. Attending gatherings with the wives from our social circle did indeed have many benefits. They possessed resources and connections beyond ordinary people's reach. After lengthy preparations, I finally succeeded in establishing the new company. My best friend hesitated to speak, and I knew exactly what she wanted to ask. This company deals in medical equipment, primarily collaborating with major hospitals. I majored in medicine during college and was the top graduate in my entire program. 4 years of university study is far from enough to master medicine. Pursuing a master's or doctoral degree has become the norm. At that time, 90% of the entire class pursued further studies. Only a handful of people chose to graduate, and I was among them. Eva, you still haven't let go of the regret in your heart, have you? I touched the scar on my wrist and remained silent. The new company is running smoothly. After all, the resources and power of the Pei family were simply too vast and astonishing. Each year, I will set aside a portion of the profits and divide it into 2 parts. A portion was used to sponsor underprivileged students, just as I had once relied on state funding to complete my own education. She allocated a portion to help ordinary people struggling in hospitals, unable to afford medical expenses. I used to look down on those who relied on others, so I refused all of John's help. I was proud and strong-willed, with a fierce sense of self-respect. Always terrified people would accuse me of leaning on a man, of depending on my husband. Now I finally understand, since the resources are right at hand, why shouldn't I use them? To place all your hopes in someone else is foolish, it's naive. Relying on the strength of others to empower oneself is the right approach. Everyone in this world lives by equivalent exchange. Those born with a silver spoon coast through life effortlessly. Beautiful people earn their acting fees with their looks. Smart people earn high salaries by selling their intelligence. Dependence was never the opposite of what we so desperately try to escape, nor something we rush to prove the moment others mention it. Just like John, he also relies on his family, on the accumulated wealth of generations past. People often say that meeting a benefactor when you step out the door is worth more than 10 years of hard work. And this benefactor could be a stranger, a friend, a parent, or a partner. Anyone who can lend a helping hand and elevate you to greater heights is a benefactor. Once I pretended to be aloof, chasing only elusive and fragile sincerity and emotions. But now I want to be ambitious, I want to fight desperately, I want to rise high. I want everything around me to serve my purpose. At night, I received a phone call. It was John's brother calling, saying he was drunk and asking me to pick him up. As I was about to push open the private room door, I heard voices inside. John, have you used that lie detector you asked me for? This is our company's newly developed product, not even on the market yet, you're among the first test clients. I heard John's reply. He sounded somewhat irritated. It's useless. Are you sure this is accurate? What if it's wrong? The private room instantly erupted in laughter, everyone mocking John for being a coward. Someone comforted him. Why don't you just skip the test? Are you showing off on purpose? If Eva doesn't love you, I'll immediately do a handstand while washing my hair and livestream it. Others also chimed in with various comments. You can say others are money hungry, but not Eva. Have you forgotten? When you married her, the Pei family was willing to offer tens of millions in betrothal gifts plus several villas, but did she take any of it? No. At first, I thought she was putting on an act too, but no one can keep up a pretense for 3 whole years. All the other wives go out in luxury cars with designer bags, but Eva carries a canvas tote every day, wearing those $100 worn-out shoes and squeezing onto the subway. I'm not trying to be harsh, but it's a bit too pitiful. John, you're really too stingy. John muttered. I offered her money, but she refused. She insists on working that lousy job that pays just a few thousand. Someone couldn't help but ask, no way, does she usually spend only her own salary? I remember she gave you a scarf for your birthday that cost over 10,000. For us it's nothing, but if she's relying on her salary, my God, how long must Eva have saved for that? John remained silent for a long time, his silence announcing the answer. The originally laughing crowd gradually quieted down, and it took a long while before someone finally muttered, damn it, none of us here including you are any good, so how the hell did you end up with a wife like that? I thought for a long time before recalling that scarf from my memories. Every year, I would start preparing John's birthday gift well in advance. I used to firmly believe that only handmade gifts could carry genuine emotion and show true thoughtfulness. Grandma was the most famous seamstress in our town, and I had learned many crafts from her since childhood. Until I discovered that everything I gave him, whether it was a coat or a shirt, John would be touched and delighted when he received them, but he never wore them out. Later I realized, for people like him, what truly mattered was never the clothes themselves, but face and brand. During that time, I frantically took on part-time jobs, desperately saving money. Finally, before John's birthday, I bought a scarf from the brand he often wore. I loved John, so I couldn't bear to see him lower his living standards because of me. John was the moon in the sky, and I was willing to give everything to keep him shining high in the night. That was also the only gift I gave that John ever took out with him. The conversation in the private room continued. Amidst the accusations from others, John downed a drink. Eva is different from other women, she's too special. Her eyes shine too brightly when they look at me. Before she never asked for anything, and I always felt insecure. I couldn't believe in such pure love. Actually, if she had asked me for things like others do, no matter how much it cost, I would have been happy. She should have depended on me a little more. John seemed lost in thought. After we remarried, she did change. She started acting coquettish like other women, voicing her needs, pestering me for houses and luxury goods. But somehow, the unease in my heart grew heavier. Someone couldn't take it anymore and called John a neurotic, accusing him of humble bragging. As I've said before, I've always found John hard to understand. In those first years after graduation, when I was at my most idealistic and naive, I valued my pride more than life itself, refusing to spend a single cent of John's money. I charged forward recklessly, practically willing to tear open my chest just to show John the sincerity in my heart. Back then, John would look at me struggling to maintain my dignity and complain that I was too independent. Now, when I've begun to embrace materialism openly and asked for money without shame, John suddenly grew apprehensive and nostalgic for the principled woman I used to be. I can't describe what I'm feeling right now. I keep thinking this isn't how things between John and I should be. Perhaps many things in life have no inherent right or wrong, they simply reach the end of their destined course. The encouragement and comfort from those around him gave John great confidence. He muttered to himself, repeating incessantly, she still loves me, she does. Back then, she was willing to risk her life for me, why else would she agree to remarry me? I shouldn't doubt our love. Yes, that's right. Eva will love me forever. John convinced himself with these words. When I pushed the door open, I happened to see the gloom lift from his brows. He looked at me with startled delight in his eyes. The towering 1.9-meter tall man actually appeared flustered. After returning home, the nanny brought sobering soup. John waved his hand, signaling her to leave work. I didn't see anything else needing attention, so I was about to return to my room to rest. Eva, John called me. I turned around just in time to see him staring blankly at my wrist. Following his gaze, I saw the scar. It's called a scar, but you wouldn't even notice it unless you looked closely. Thanks to modern technology and John's extravagant care that spares no expense, the once deep and ugly scar has gradually faded with the passage of time. Back then, did you ever regret? John tried several times before managing to ask with difficulty in his voice, regretting rushing in to save me again. It was near graduation in our senior year, and I had already secured a supervisor for graduate studies. The lab suddenly exploded, and the fire spread rapidly. In the panicked and chaotic surroundings, only I rushed in with a wet blanket wrapped around my head. It's hard to imagine how I, weighing less than 100 pounds, managed to carry out John, who was 6'3" and unconscious from smoke inhalation. The campus forum hailed our story as a love that moved heaven and earth. The doctor told me it was sheer willpower that gave me the burst of strength to escape in such a short time. The fire made John completely devoted to me. He was willing to elope with me even when his family cut off his allowance. In the end, the Pei family had to compromise with their only son. I've been the only commoner wife in their social circle all these years. Not even from a moderately well-off family, just a poor student relying on financial aid. Looking back now, perhaps it was because John's fallout with his family over me, that I desperately tried to prove myself, to prove I wasn't some gold-digging, materialistic girl. No regrets. I rarely lie, yet here I am, mastering deception effortlessly once again. A gentle smile and curved eyes spoke volumes of my sincerity. But John's face instantly turned pale. He stared at me, with anguish gradually surfacing between his brows. Something flashed in my eyes. Tilting my head slightly, I spotted a red light in the corner. It was that lie detector, which had somehow turned on without me noticing. I lowered my head and touched the raised metal piece on the back of my neck. It must have been when I helped John inside earlier he'd silently placed it there. You've been regretting it all along, regretting saving me, regretting getting your wrist crushed by the equipment, making you never able to hold a scalpel again, never able to be a doctor again. Isn't that right? Though it was clearly me being interrogated, John's eyes reddened as tears streamed down his cheeks. The anger was his, and so was the pain. I sighed and admitted frankly, I do regret it a little. Back then, I had saved the sole heir of the Pei family. The Pei family offered me 30 million as a token of gratitude. I refused, saying I did it to save my boyfriend, not for the money. Looking back now, I deeply regret it. Emily once saved John when they were young, and in return, John invested countless resources in her. Now she's thriving in the entertainment industry, with her career flourishing. Yet I saved John but gained nothing in return. This just reminded me, so I discussed with John. Can you still give me the 30 million from back then? I truly regret not taking it. I don't know how this sentence provoked John. His previously haggard face suddenly came alive, almost eagerly. Give, of course I'll give. 3 million is too little. 5 million. No, 8 million. I'll transfer it to you immediately. Eva, I was truly wrong back then. Even if you refused, I should have insisted on giving it to you. It's only right that you regret it. John was practically glowing, his words tumbling out in disorder. I knew it. Just because of this you regret saving me. I couldn't understand why someone could be so happy while giving away money. But since it was offered, I naturally wouldn't hesitate to take it. I checked the time. It really was time to rest, and I was about to leave. Then I felt John grab my wrist. Nervous sweat beaded faintly on his forehead. His cheeks flushed red as he stared at me with pleading eyes, stammering out his question. I have one last question to ask. Eva, you were willing to save me back then, and now you're willing to remarry me. You still love me now? No, you've always loved me, haven't you? I raised my head and met John's hopeful gaze. The lie detector's light was still flickering in the corner. Red light for lies, green light for truth. Reason told me that with this device monitoring me, any lie would be instantly exposed. Strangely, my mind wandered back to our wedding night. The room was decked out in glaringly festive red. Red is often used to symbolize marriage, representing a happy union that lasts forever. So I smiled too and answered John's question. Love. The lie detector spun rapidly, its harsh red light instantly reflecting into John's eyes. On my wedding day, I wore a vibrant red bridal gown, shy yet blissful as I dreamed of the future. Now, bathed in ominous crimson light, I speak the same words I once did. John, of course I love you, and I'll love you till the end of my days. That lie detector ultimately met its demise at John's hands. His face was as pale as paper as he pounded the machine with relentless blows. Sorry, this machine might be broken. After all, it's newly produced. There are always plenty of flaws. The machine was smashed to pieces, John's knuckles a bloody mess. Yet he spoke to me as if feeling no pain, completely unfazed. By the way, haven't you been fond of pink diamonds lately? I heard there's one at the recent auction in Hong Kong. I'll definitely buy it for you. It was as if that day's incident had never happened. John was a coward, selectively forgetting that day's conversation. He grew increasingly paranoid, often losing sleep until dawn over a single remark of mine. I believe John loves me, and I've never denied that. He gave me all his love, nearly 100% of it. Our divorce back then was an ugly mess. He loves me, yet that doesn't stop him from seeking pleasure with other women out of desire. Thus, such love appears as fleeting as flowers in a mirror or moons reflected in water, a castle in the air. When all secrets were exposed to the light, they proved so fragile. I pretended not to notice John's changes, still steadily advancing my career, utilizing every resource around me. Greedy people always have to pay more. When I gave John my heart, he didn't want it. When he finally did, there was nothing left for him in my heart. 3 years later, I was chatting with my best friend at a coffee shop. She was very curious about my current relationship with John. I just smiled and said, it doesn't matter. John was willing to play the fool for a lifetime, so I couldn't care less either way. Just like now, my best friend only mentioned it in passing. Our conversation had already shifted to the company's development and expansion into overseas markets. When I learned to think like John and his crowd, only now do I realize that love truly doesn't need to occupy much space in life. Studies, career, vision, wealth, power, fame, status, freedom. There are far too many things worth considering. From this day forward, I shall live only to please myself. The end.